thank you for everyone who's here. These two teams have an incredible, rich history, and today we add to it, don't we? Someone's got to be on the losing end, but as a tremendous benefactor of the game of lacrosse, how incredible it's been for me, building incredible relationships with the Onondaga people as a boy who grew up in this town. I couldn't be more grateful to be a part of the Virginia-Syracuse rivalry. And I was, just sort of pinching myself to have 8,000–9,000 people in the stands, to have a game that goes back and forth, and be front row, and be able to stand, be able to yell at people. My players, yell at the officials a little bit, be someone involved. But man, what an incredible setting to witness two teams go up and down the field, play the game the way the game's meant to be played. And so I told my men I couldn't be more grateful for them. Heroic. We have two face-off men who are battling through injuries, going against two very talented face-off men for Syracuse. Anthony Gabriel and Thomas Colucci, how they persevered through it, amazes me. Truly amazes me what they were fighting through today. And boy, what a game of runs, huh? Unfortunately, Syracuse had the last one, scoring those last two goals there at the end of the game in the last 2 minutes. But it's a testament to the thrill of what this game can bring to the little boys and girls, to the fans, to the players, and as we all respect who really gave us this game, the creator and the Haudenosaunee people. And so I think we've pleased them today.
Coach, you have the number 19 on your shirt. I know you played against the Gates during your career around. What does Paul mean to the game of lacrosse in so many different ways?
Yeah, it's obviously a fantastic lacrosse player. There'll never be a duo like Paul and Gary. And but also innovator. This engineer. They've created a life through the business of lacrosse. They've come up with incredible sticks for both men and women. And I know Virginia has a history of being a gate, sponsored team. Years ago when Dom Starzer was the head coach, and so I love how Paul has, been so innovative in and outside the box with so many different phases of the game of lacrosse. I never played, as I joke, I never played in a gate-free world. They were freshmen when I was a freshman. There were times I've seen videotape in 1987 when Syracuse played at Brown in our football stadium, and I'm flying out chasing number 38 and 39 as a long stick midi, because who was 38 and 39? And the next 3 years I knew who 19 and 22 were, as I was about 15 yards in, waiting for them to come to me. But yeah, and so it was really special to have Paul there today. His words were fantastic, so gracious and generous to others, and that's who Paul Gate is.
Coach, you had a moment with Paul at midfield there when he came back out. What did you say to him?
I said, just thank you for everything you've done for this game. It's as a player, what he and his brother, shocked the world that you could be that slick and incredible with your stick work, plus that fast and strong and powerful. I can remember in 1990, my final game as a college player was here in the Gates final home game in what was called the Carrier Dome then. About 31 seconds into the game, each had a goal. It was 2-0. Dom Starzer called timeout. We couldn't hear Dom in the huddle. It was so loud. And so but to really answer your question, I said it was an incredible speech. Your words are very generous, and you're so others focused. It's amazing when someone who's, had an incredible life and then had something that not incredible happen to him, but he's not living that life, so woe is me. He's giving to others.
Coach, you've seen the past couple of years of the Syracuse program and some of the struggles that it's seen, but with today's crowd and just this game and what you've seen throughout Syracuse this season, do you think that this kind of says that Syracuse is back?
They certainly were back even before today's win. When you see that they have 3 losses in overtime, those are gut-wrenching. Today's loss for Virginia is gut-wrenching, but we know Syracuse has gone through 3 of those, and so they are certainly back to what the expectation level is here, and the team that I grew up adoring, and the team I've witnessed win those national championships year in year out. A while ago. So you see what they've added some face-off support. Both Mason Kahn and Johnny Mullen are doing a fantastic job at the X. They brought in some athleticism, with both 14 and 15 there, and what they're doing, and along with probably the best feeding team in the country. The stick work is phenomenal, isn't it? It's an offense where if you take too many steps as a slide or you hedge, they make you pay. And so they're building it. And oh, by the way, yeah, granted we did score 17 goals, but we've seen them keep some really good offenses to low scores. They got a heck of a defensive coordinator. So they're doing something really, really, really well here. And it's you always hear that saying, oh, the world's better when such and such is good in basketball, because it's tradition, and maybe the same for Syracuse, when they're really strong, coming up in here in the Dome, you get your hands full. A fantastic opponent.
Are you surprised that they were able to get to 18 despite the fact that you held Joey scoreless? And regardless of whether you're surprised, what do you think was the reason who played well? How did they get to 18?
Sure. I don't think these type of games surprise me. And this is the setting for a 22-21 game, right? 1997, and it's one of those days where we're not going to slow it down, and I know Syracuse isn't going to slow it down. And just to look in the eye of we're going to play this thing up tempo and fast, and that's just that both teams wanting to play as aggressive as possible is going to create more goals and more scoring opportunities. For example, there at the end when Anthony Gabriel won that face-off forward, and I had a chance to call timeout in a tie game. I'm like, no, we're going to let this run. We're going to let this rip. He's not, we could set something up, and Kevin Cassis is a great offensive coordinator, but let it go. We struggled with Owen Hiltz, certainly. We were 2-pole defense for much of the early in the game, where we were going to put a short stick mini on Muley. And that meant Cole Castor got pushed up, but we were struggling with Owen Hiltz, and he was able to sweep across. He has a fantastic shot. He's got his feeding is fantastic as well. And so we experimented as the rest of the game went on with a single pole, so we could put Cole Castor on Owen Hiltz to try to quiet him down a little bit, but give him a ton of credit there. The picks, what Syracuse does with their pick play, it challenges if you're trying to keep your matchup. And we struggle with that. You can see some goals early, and then certainly at the end there where we were struggling. Are we going to switch this pick? Are we going to try to get through that pick? And Finn Thompson is really dangerous there. I don't know how many points he had, but he's one of those guys who creates offense, whether it's a statistic or not. And then they power lined. Syracuse they have the traditional first and second line, but halfway through the fourth quarter, all of a sudden it was like, okay, all right, we got Muley is out of the game. Now they've got Leo on attack, and they got Finn Thompson and Roa along with English, and Jake Stevens as one of the options as well. I was like, okay, now where do we put our short stick D middies? And that was there's just so many weapons, and so. Their shooting is fantastic. They certainly got a lot of goals early in that game before we were able to make a save. But I want to give credit to Matt Nunes, a guy who we pulled last week, didn't have a great performance against Duke, and then again this week he has 0 saves, I think, into the second quarter to finish with 15 saves. Boy, did he get hot, especially in that third quarter. I don't think our team defense was really comfortable in that third quarter, but the ball just didn't get on as much because of Matt Nunes stepping up and making some huge saves. I also want to Matt, when we lost the ball with about 30 seconds left, we had prepared for a quick 10-man, and Matt Nunes made a brilliant play on that pickoff, and got us one more chance there. So we're very lucky to have him.
Coach, focusing more on your team, you guys arguably have the toughest schedule to close out your season. Lost to Duke last week, now Syracuse. Now you have to prepare for the #1 team in the nation. How do you regroup after this?
Yeah, it's I told the guys, hey fellas, this is supposed to hurt really tremendously because we care so much, because we pour so much of our heart into it, because of how much we sacrifice. And I say today was an epic, heroic game. It was an epic, heroic battle. We lost this battle, but we haven't lost the war. And so what we need to do is on this road trip home, think about it. We'll go through the film tomorrow. We train on Sundays. Monday's our day off. That's our plan. It's our process. And Mitch Whalen, one of our captains, talked about it. Fellas, we got to put this behind us as quickly as possible. Was probably by Sunday afternoon, and focus on the #1 team in the country. You talk about sometimes things that would come at your life, it's a burden, and we look at the negative side of it, but it also could be a blessing. If we didn't have another great opponent on our schedule, how do we get to prove ourselves? How do we get to know if we've gotten better? So Notre Dame, you could certainly see that's a burden playing those guys with how well they're playing right now. But it's also an opportunity. And so we're very fortunate to have that, and hopefully get a win and secure a spot in the ACC tournament. I'll give Jordan one more. I know he and I had a good talk a couple days ago.
Coach, you guys switched to 2 long balls on the wings. What kind of led to that in the second half?
Yeah, it's. I know we don't do it very often. We did it against Albany at one point because we were so worried about Jake Pacino, an incredible LSM, an incredible lacrosse player from Liverpool here. And part of it is just the 2-pole face-off. It lends itself well if you're going to play 2-pole defense. And we were going to put a short on Muley. We're not the only teams. A lot of teams have put a short stick on Muley. And so we could get a second pole up on the first line, whether it was English and Leo, and the second line up on Roa and Stevens. And so if you've 2-pole face-off, then you're already set, and you don't have to do this switcheroo. Most teams, you don't worry about a 6v5 for a couple seconds. Syracuse, oof, this is a team. They make you pay, as we saw today. Fortunately, we were able to make them pay for some 6v5s as well, and bury some shots and get on our own runs. So, which just made it such an incredible game. And again, this is the type of game, when the native people invented this game, they created this game so they turned boys into warriors. Not to be patient, not to stall, not to be managing the game. This is meant to be played by warriors playing at a ferocious pace, and that's what we got to see today. Thank you, Patrick. Thank you, everyone.